everyone, I'm Cassidy Jensen, a licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Grace Allspaw, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And we are both owners of our own therapy practices and passionate about the world of therapy.
This is Two View Therapy, the podcast. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes.
That was not something special I just offered. Well, it seemed too nice. Good morning. How are you? We got 4 minutes of morning. Oh, we're getting there. Gosh, where does the time go? I don't think there's ever enough time. No, just not ever. Which gets me all worked up. Not in a good way. You know, I was just thinking earlier this morning. I woke up early to go walk, and I thought about 10 minutes after I woke up. And I spent the evening talking to no one, and it sounded glorious. And that was before I saw a single human being. Yeah, some days are like that. Yeah, and I think that's how I function as well. I'm very much introverted, so I think sometimes, the way I like it, I am dragging my feet with going to work, especially on a rainy, cool day. I don't know. There's some days I wake up and I'm like, I'd like to not have any stimuli. And then I have the stimuli and I get a little pissed off about it. That's okay. That's part of why I have Fridays off. Because all week there's so much flying at me that by Fridays, I'm done. I like game over. I want no one to speak to me. That's how I am with herbal days. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if you're, especially in private practice, because you can dictate your schedule. Yeah, think of it. You should do 4 days. Oh, yeah. I was just talking to some clients about me being gone and doing remote work. And they were kind of weird about it at first. And I was like, it's 16 work days. So at max, I'd see you 4 times this way. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, registering, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Why was I telling you that? There was a purpose. Well, you were talking to me earlier. Yeah, that's why. Yeah. Because I'm only got 16 work days, which doesn't seem like that many. No. Sounds like we're being miserable. Well, I think that kind of, as we continue to banter, goes into that overwhelm and like how to really take bite-sized pieces. Well, when I first started, because my schedule was so weird with like, I think it was weird. You were off Wednesdays, you were trying to work Saturdays. No one wanted Saturdays, which is weird. Everybody when I started was like, how about Saturdays? I'm like, no. I offered to everyone. My first probably 20 to 30 clients, I offered Saturdays and no one wanted them. So I removed them and added Wednesdays. And then all of a sudden people wanted Saturdays. And I was like, no, I'm not going back to that. Yeah. Like that was a limited time offer. Yeah. Yeah. So overwhelmed. I live in it. Yeah. The sorrow in your voice is there. I mean, I've been here for almost 3 years. Wow, how exciting. It is exciting. That's crazy how time has really flown by. But I had many conversations. I don't know how much your dad talked about, so many conversations with your dad about like, I swear I'm not like this, because I was like late. Like I told him I would be here certain times, and maybe I was like 10 minutes late. Nobody gave a fuck. No, but I had this idea of like, oh, I need to clock in. I don't know. Yes. So I had this expectation. I was like, I swear I'm not like this, but I don't know what it is about changing into this job. I don't have my shit together. It's just a tornado all of the time. There's no structure. Maybe that's what it is. Like at a normal job, you work 9 to 5 or, 8 to 5 or whatever it is, or 7 to 4, 7 to 3, whatever. Here, because there's so much freedom, which is amazing. I love the freedom. But also that means that there's less structure. And like I thrive on structure. I do too. And I like to have the same kind of routine every day, but with like coming in at different times and leaving at different times. I've thought about that too. And I've thought about, what if I'm just here, even though I don't have clients? And then I'm like, no, Yeah. I don't want to do that.
No.
Either.
No. I show like 10 minutes before I have clients and call it good.
I used to make sure I was here 30 minutes extra. I've been like called in like 58.
Hey, you've taken kind of a page out of my book here.
I know. Well, I think that so we're talking about anxiety today, if you didn't already guess. And I couldn't come up with a witty title because I think it speaks for itself, especially in all caps.
Yes.
Procrastination, I think, fits in here as well. But I think because we have these flexible schedules, if I have all the time in the world, and I don't.
No. I even will say there's part of me that has this expectation. I need to get it all done and have it all together and do my notes at the end of every day and all the things. But then that becomes overwhelming to me. So then I get anxious and then I don't do it. I have this like anxious avoidance
cycle. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so overwhelming. Then there's paralysis.
This is like PSA right here at the beginning of this episode. This is a very vulnerable and open and honest episode
are our organic thoughts.
We do not have it together. And I think that that's important to know as, yeah, we are therapists who sit with people.
And tell them to get it together.
We're trying still. We're working on getting it together as well. So there's some, for a play on words and not so much, there's some grace in allowing.
I hate it. I tell people grace all the time, but then I just think,
I tell people, like, give yourself some grace. And then they'll just look at me and I'm like grace, not me. And they're like, oh, yeah. Okay. Or some people, you can tell they forgot my name. And so then when I say, like, it is kind of a play on words, but like, give yourself some grace, they're like, what? Heck is my name? They're like, oh, okay.
Which is nothing worse than trying to be punny in a session and it just falls short.
There's a slight embarrassment there when you say something and they're just like,
that really was going to be a showstopper in my head.
That was really going to get them. Yeah. Okay, so thinking about anxiety, I mean, if we're being real raw and vulnerable, both of us experience anxiety at
always
different times, probably experience it differently. I will say, with anxiety, I have a really hard time being late to things. And I am a chronically late person. So rather than leaving early and being ready on time, I still just live with the anxiety and I
pull like a fun game.
Yeah. I was just on vacation with some friends. I had the most amazing time, but we were on different time schedules. So I could feel myself getting anxious and then it was like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. We're on vacation. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. We'll be fine. Whatever. But that processing and acknowledgement over the weekend of like, okay, I really am so battling anxiety. Because I thought for a while, I'm not really an anxious person.
Gosh, I've never thought that.
Joke's on me. Wasn't real. So what do you think in your mind of like, what creates anxiety for people in general?
The fear of the unknown, uncertainties. I think energy. I come from an anxious family, so I saw it and felt it and noticed cues and signs.
Some intergenerational root there.
Yes. I have a client that recently did some genetic testing. It's so cool. I want to explore it more, but it sounds like there could be some connection with genetic mutations and predisposition. Yeah, which I think there is just a little bit of that genetically as well.
Yeah. I think if you just like broad statements here, subjects that create some anxiety, that
go for it. Shoot from
perfectionism.
Yes.
Balancing everything.
Trying to play it all.
Yes. Expectations. Politics.
Yep. The climate.
Yep. I think especially with this week, looking at the news, things like school shootings.
Yes, that one's really relevant right now.
Yes.
Again.
I know that's been on your mind this week.
Yeah.
Of sitting with clients for
Yeah, my teens in high school especially. Like, I just want to go to school and not worry about if something's going to happen.
Yeah.
There was an incident last year where somebody brought a grenade to school.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know what's going through people's minds, but it is shocking that I have the client that's a teen. She's hoping to graduate early, and that's going to relieve some stress and anxiety because then she won't have to be at a place that could be targeted. And as a therapist, I'm just like flabbergasted. Like, that's where we're at. That's so disheartening.
Well, is that something you had to think about when you were in high school?
No, I no.
Yeah.
I remember, I think in middle school, we started doing active shooter trainings. I think we maybe did like one here and there, but it was never a routine thing, and like I never really thought about it.
We did them. I mean, now it's as common as a fire drill.
Right. I think it's like a pretty like monthly thing.
Common.
Mm-hmm.
But I do, thinking back, I know when I was at least like 4th, 5th grade, remember doing an active shooter drill. But
Really?
younger than that, which we had a little bit of a gap, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
4th and 5th grade for sure, because I can remember like turning off all the lights, hiding in the corner, like all of that kind of stuff.
Shutting up.
Yes, being quiet, all that. But I don't think I realized how big of a threat it was until like probably 2-ish years ago. And that's, I mean, I'm well out of elementary, middle, high school by that point.
Yeah, I think I've had a lot more awareness of it. We're justice field more enforcement. I know what you meant. See, my mind's just overwhelmed.
This is an intense topic as well.
Well, I remember when I was a CSI, I had to work. I had to go a search warrant on a house because a teen had made a threat to a school. So I had to go find the weapons and things that were needed.
And it's so crazy looking at, like, if we just sat there for a minute of school shootings, there's never a justification. I also think the way people are treated has an impact on that. And also, like this one that you were telling me about this week, because I try and stay kind of away from the news and all that, because it's just so depressing. It increases my anxiety. It does. And I have a really hard time. I have 2 people in my life that really fixate on big events like that and want to talk about it repeatedly. And I can feel that eases their anxiety. And for me, it ups it.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
that kind of thing. But what's my point?
The recent shooting and how he had, it was like the first day of school and he had really any connection to
brand new school for so there's not the bullying aspect that we talk a lot about
from a therapist perspective. Like, what's been going on and where did we get here?
Oh, and I wasn't saying that, but there's significant mental illness to go into a fresh school, take a loaded weapon, harm multiple people, take multiple lives.
Right. I can't understand that thought process.
So even in that, I think you said it earlier that like things being unpredictable creates anxiety, the unknown.
I think societally, in the United States especially too, there's so many unknowns. I think everybody is feeding off of everyone's energy. I think since COVID especially, but I think over the last decade, there's been quite an uptick in anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation.
Yeah, I mean, anxiety for sure, depression for sure, suicidal ideation for sure. Like all of them, I think, have increased. I'm curious, especially because you have a client you're currently working with that's battling that anxiety of a school shooting. How how do you think, specific to that situation, not anxiety in general, specific to the fear of an active shooter being in their school?
Yeah.
How do you support them? How do you come alongside as they're coping, processing, and even working to decrease that anxiety?
I feel like I don't know, because we don't know. Every school that it's happened to, like all of those communities were like, I didn't think it was going to happen here. So I can't say like it's not going to, because we don't know.
It's so unknown. It's not predictable at all. Yeah, I do like really vividly remember. I must have been junior in high school. There was a man walking outside of the school, which there's like where we live, high school, main road in the town. And he was walking down the main road, and someone reported that he was acting suspicious.
Yeah.
And so they put our school into lockdown. It's that immediate fear. You have no idea who this person is, what they're doing. They're near a school, but they shut down every school in Derby. So then it invokes fear in all of us, because what's going on, we don't know. We don't have answers. Our parents don't know. We can't give them answers. They can't give us answers. It's very all unknown, and you have to live in that, at least for a time.
Well, I think the only thing that can be done here is to be prepared to an extent.
So how do you prepare?
Well, I think that's the school, what that was
Managing that.
Yeah. I feel like that one's so tricky, because I could see students, regardless, having some, even an ounce of anxiety every day at school, especially like here we are just at the beginning of school. I can't imagine for those communities where, it happened at, how any of those students are going to be able to just go back to school.
Yeah, back in that space where potentially they lost a friend.
Yeah.
Or their favorite teacher. Or a family friend, or, sibling. How do you go back into that space?
Honestly, I don't know. I think as a therapist, I think that's where some of my anxieties come from. Seeing a dark world as a CSI. I mean, I went into this career field so I can help in a different way, but there's a darkness, and I don't know if you experience this, but sometimes from day to day or week to week, it just seems like there's just like some heavier shit, and I don't know what to do with it, and I don't know how else to help.
I just was talking with my supervisor this week. It seems like every time I sit with someone, in some ways gets more intense. And for some, it's getting lighter. But the topic of conversation is still heavy. But they're healing from that.
Yeah.
So that's different. But it does seem like, and even thinking about over here as we're talking, my brain's like doing all this stuff because thinking about, well, we were not in high school all that long ago. When you look at it, grand scheme, right? And that there was social media, but not to the extent there is now.
I really did Facebook.
Yeah. I had Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook, but no TikTok. And all three of those things were not as big.
You had Vines, I think, with high school, and there was this thing about the boot tracks.
I never heard of that. Interesting.
Yak Track.
Oh.
Yeah, I had that in college too.
Okay. So thinking about that social media looks really different. If we pulled up statistics, the school shootings have become more prevalent. That you and I were talking earlier about the book,
Anxious Generation.
Yes, that both of us would like to read. We talk about the anxiety is becoming more prevalent. Yeah. Like that all makes so much sense to me because they're dealing with so much. And like I even had a teenager who was frustrated with parents at one point and said to me, they don't understand what it's like to be a teenager right now.
Right.
Parents kept saying, well, I'm a teenager
too. We are in the wild, wild west, cowboys and technology and the world we're living in.
Yes. How completely different.
You also have add COVID in there.
Yeah.
Either that affected schooling, friendships, social aspects of things. You have that.
I even think, like, not to call my parents out at all. When they were growing up, the phone was on the wall.
Yeah.
They didn't have cell phones. And so I did once I hit a certain point. But I was also raised to be outside, and parents aren't requiring that anymore. And like all the things. So when we think about coping with anxiety, being outside, walking, nature is really good for
play, getting some of that stress out,
laughter.
Yeah. Well, we're living in this, especially with cell phones, of this always connected, always having to be on, always needing to be ready.
Well, they're also at school all day. Getting tons of information. Everything's coming in. Then they go home. They have to do homework, or they even have to do sports until. I have some people who are in sports till 6:30.
Yeah. No, I have some clients that I get up at 6, and when I come home after my day, it's like no.
I have a client right now who is in 2 sports at the moment and has morning practice, so has to be up at 5, at practice by 6. Then has school starting at 8. They're in college and high school, so they have to do some travel back and forth. And their second sport practice is after school. So they're gone from 6 a.m. often to 6 or 6:30 p.m.
And I think sometimes like parents know best. They're like, I don't want to work a 12-hour day like that.
Oh, and
no thanks.
And that person works. So they have a job that they do on top of all of that. So imagine all that. And then you add in social media, the fears of active shooters or whatever that might be.
Just there's so much negativity in the news, and we get to see it a lot. So I think there's more awareness, but also we have people talking about it or having their comments. It's just, I think that negativity, one, is contagious, but it's just so much.
Well, thinking about anxiety, it's like, no shit, we all experience it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, even as adults.
Yeah. Now, I saw something, I think it was like when I was in high school, it's like the average person experiences more anxiety nowadays than somebody who got put into a sane asylum in the 50s. But that's normal.
I think even if we expanded this more, my systemic mind goes to how are you living? What environment do you live in? We talked about this earlier, you and I. Is the environment decreasing stress? Is it increasing? Well, let me flip that. Is it decreasing anxiety? Is it increasing anxiety? Like, what is the environment you're living in doing for you?
You mean like your household?
Household, work. I mean, the school you attend. I think often I have a client that I think I would never say this, okay, to the client. From my personal perspective, the school that they attend is harming them more than doing good.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's the town they live in. So they just do it. And like there are other schools in the surrounding area that they could get to pretty quickly.
That might be more beneficial.
Yes. And so I've thought about that of like, is there a way we can have that conversation without it seeming like I have an ulterior motive? I haven't gone there yet because that's not where they're at. And so I'm not forcing my perspective, but like, is the school you're at beneficial? Do you feel safe there? Do you have healthy relationships with peers? Are your teachers respectful of you?
Yeah. And I see so many people too, because of the rise in anxiety, that there's also more social anxiety.
Yes.
I think then we're getting to a place that there's so much discomfort. So we are hermiting a little bit. So I think it could be detrimental.
Which, thinking about when you were younger, like friendship wise, when there was conflict, did you work through it? Did you maintain friendship?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to like elementary school. I had some same friends, and then I had some friends that I wasn't friends with them after like a year, but I'm trying to think of like conflict right off the top of my head. Like,
so like, for example, most of my friend group I met at some point in elementary school. And we moved through elementary school, middle school, and high school mostly as a unit. Like, there was some conflict and some separation of friendship within that, but there was still this big group and we could all come together.
No.
Okay.
Elementary, I was hanging out with a group of friends who then became more popular, for which I was not.
So you were like, bye.
They kind of said peace to me.
Okay.
So,
Sad. It's okay.
yeah. So, then I had to make new friends.
See, okay. I think what you're just describing right now, this is my point.
Yeah.
That is amplified times 12 right now because of social media. Because it's so quick to post something or to text something, which texting's not in my mind social media, but it's so quick to say something, to screenshot, to send it.
Oh, yeah. I have people that have like different like burner accounts so they can talk
of shit and stuff.
Yes. I was like, what even is that? So I don't feel like there was that.
There were instances when I was in high school. That was like a thing.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I think now, like when I look back at middle school specifically, I felt like my friendships created a sense of peace and like I trusted them. High school looked really different. I didn't feel as much connection and like that I was worthy of that friendship, that type of thing. There was just so much conflict at times.
No, I had like a core group in high school.
I did too, in a sense, but there was a lot more up and down.
No, I was like me and two other people, and like we were ride or die. And then that dissipated at college. And then I was kind of like, well,
do you still have a friendship with them?
No. Well, we've kind of reconnected after a while because there were some wounds there. Well, I guess here we go. Conflict. They had a grandparent that died, and I wasn't really supportive, and I didn't know how to handle it. And that, like, created distance.
Yeah.
She had moved away.
Okay.
And I think I apologized later when I like maybe a couple years later. And then like we reconnected like a year ago. I don't know, things still feel different, but like I am hoping
there's something there.
Yeah, I will occasionally text, but I'm always like, I hope things go well. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like more in my head.
Yeah.
Like, you got it. The other ones I'm like, I don't care.
I think with that, even you stating like that this ride or die group that I think is harder to have these days.
Oh yeah, I see that with teens and adults because I think there's this more clear, like,
we're done.
Yeah. Or we're going to talk about it more. We can post about it. And I think maybe we had some of those thoughts, but when they're out there like that, I think the repair is so much
different.
difficult.
Well, and thinking about not having a solid support at school, like those friendships that you can have at school at home, things could be different. But then at school, you're in isolation. Isolation would increase my anxiety tremendously. Because I was all alone, had no connection with people. I would be so anxious and so uncomfortable and overwhelmed that I think some social media has increased that cycle. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
So then there's this uptick in anxiety. How do you manage it? Which then it's a vicious cycle. Can increase isolation because you're anxious and don't know how to handle it.
Well, I think there's a lot of need for regulation, and people think coping skills and regulation is scrolling or learning something on TikTok, whatever. And those things, even if they are like benign subjects, it's the dopamine rushes of having the screen, having this quick 3-second video. It's this instantaneousness. Yeah.
Well, I even think if we're talking regulation and coping skills, maladaptive coping skills have such a hold on our world that maybe they are coping skills, but you're not utilizing them as coping skills.
I feel like we're using numbing skills.
Yeah. I actually, even as you were saying emotional regulation and coping skills, I thought different. And typically in my mind, I put those two together. I think Emotion regulation means there's a processing of what's going on. That you're an active participant, you're in your body, like feeling what's going on. You're having a cognitive process. Yes.
Yeah.
Cognitive process of thoughts, feelings, emotions, behaviors even. Coping is maybe temporary.
Yes.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Emotion regulation
Both.
could be long term. Like you process, you heal, you do that in the moment. Coping in that moment.
I want to see it different. I think like we can emotional regulate and then maybe we can go to a coping skill to finish.
Okay. They go together. But in your mind, are they different? Like, do they do different things?
I think so. I think they can be similar, but I think I also just put those together too. I always take it back to what are you noticing within your body? How is it feeling?
Yeah.
Where are you noticing?
See, that to me would be like emotion regulation or exploration of what's going on. Sure.
Yeah, but with coping skills, I'm also encouraging clients to be mindful in those skills of what they're noticing and how is it helpful, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that.
Making me question.
No, I think what we're both saying is true.
Yeah.
But we have two views. Oh, yes. I would also say, like, as we were preparing for this episode, I wrote down how to help with anxiety. And I put just a few things, just like generic. But I wrote down talk with and then ... because I think there's flexibility of who you could talk with, which would be like more of a processing for me of like the emotion regulation piece, processing through whatever's going on for you. And then I also wrote down exercise, cold, and sour exposure.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing. That would be more in my mind coping skills, but I think they have a place together.
What do I consider? I feel like those, I feel like I use the terminology of like grounding.
Yeah.
For those. I feel like those can be like jolting system.
Okay.
Coping skills, I can see like, oh, we're reading, we're developing better habits for a while.
Okay.
What's resonating? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't disagree. What an interesting thing we both just.
Yeah. I'm going to second guess this.
Today. I don't think you should. Because I think you're right. Don't second guessing. Or try not.
Just stop.
Don't be anxious. I do think that part of this podcast is that we do have two different views. Especially our training. Parts of just partially. Part because I can't talk. Partially because we have different training, we have different upbringings, we have different life experiences.
Yeah.
That both statements are true. And I actually think we're kind of saying the same thing. Oh,
yeah.
You don't like that.
You just.
Am I?
I was just.
Am I just a Gen Z? If not a millennial.
It changes in that year, I think.
I didn't get that off.
Can't remember if you're the cutoff on the good side or the
Hey. I did just have someone in my office the other day that I was like, remember what year you were born? And I believe they said 2005, and I was like, oh, 2000. I made the cutoff in the 90s, so I feel good about that.
Yeah, I feel
by
like
over a year.
Yeah, I think if you're in the 90s, you're still.
Anyways,
I think there's Zillennials. The Zillennials, sorry, I think that's
in between Gen Z and millennial. Maybe that's where I'm at. We're getting old.
I was always told I had an old soul, so I was destined to work.
I have been told that on a number of occasions, and during my master's program, the majority of it I spent with 3 ladies who could all be my mom. And we have a group chat together, and it's called The Old Souls.
I like that.
I'm in my 20s, and they're all, bless them, they're not old. They're all older than me. And I loved hanging out with them so much. I miss them all so much.
I wish I had that experience. I stayed friends with a couple of people, but I went to school during COVID, so I didn't interact with most of them.
Have you met them in person ever?
When we graduated, I saw faces. And at the tail end, we could go back to go in class, but they were going to still offer it in Zoom. And I was like, why am I going to go to this? I'm going to just stay home and eat and watch y'all in the room.
You saved so much money in gas. And
I know, because I live further away. It was going to go 40-minute drive. And then class wouldn't get done to like 10. That's in an awful part of town. I was like, I will stay home and do laundry and listen. Multitask.
So did most of your people go back?
No, maybe. We didn't have that many in our like classes, though. I want to say like maybe at most 20.
Okay, let's just say it's some weird stuff because like my master's program, I was with the same people always.
Yes.
And I have a client who has a family member who's in the program, I'm just saying. It's like, oh, you didn't finish this class or you didn't meet these requirements, so you can just start it over the next semester. And like if I failed the class or didn't get all their criteria or whatever, or all my hours, I would have had to extend and go back the next year. Like it wouldn't have been an option for me to retake that class immediately. I would have had to wait until the next cohort was taking it.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Anyways, random. Sorry.
I don't know. We can touch base on that later.
Lots of differences in the program. Okay.
Perfectionism, did we touch on that?
Ish.
Expectations. I know expectations definitely get in the way. Like on the weekends, especially when I'm figuring out what to do with the kids, I've already talked about it. We're going to try to go to the Dino Park and do mini golf. We want to wake up and have a good breakfast. They wanted to have a picnic. That was one of the spelling words this week. So I don't want to do that. And a compromise, we're going to sit at the table on our deck. So we're mountainside. So I've got that in mind. But I don't know, husband-wise, like he hasn't been filled in. His might look very different. So even if I was like, okay, at 10 o'clock I want to go, and he might say like, I'm fine with 10:30, and by 10:15 I'm starting to get amped up, like we need to get going, and he's like, we have all day, like I don't know what you're getting worked up about. And to me, it's like that was the time that was confirmed. That is
the plan.
Yeah,
I get it.
And he's like, just go with the flow. And I'm like, I need you to go with the flow within these parameters.
So how do you communicate that of like, I'm feeling anxious because we agreed on this time?
He just sees me like start pacing and he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Or I just stare at him. So I'm like, are you gonna get ready soon? About 10. I see 10:30 is getting close. We're almost there.
And you and the kids are ready.
Yeah. Well, so they're like, oh, yeah.
They're excited. The Dino Bar. You've been before?
Yeah, we've been for sure.
Well, you do. But yeah, I think with anxiety, it's oftentimes silent in the sense of you can't see it necessarily. Like people couldn't look at you and be like, man, she's anxious. There are times you can see it. And like you notice? Not you specifically. Well, I have before noticed. But that's part of that's my job as a therapist is to read people's body language, and I assess for anxiety, all those things every session, like affect, where their body language is, where their emotions are at, that kind of thing. And like I put in my session notes, Cassidy was, but good on the client, right? But Cassidy's emotional and affective state of here, quite anxious and like that kind of thing. Here's why I see that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time from an outside perspective, you can't necessarily see it. If someone's having an anxiety attack, panic attack, you can see that, right?
you see someone more worked up,
more visible.
I describe anxiety as like nervous butterflies, like you're internally like seething, oozing. It's just like,
I would describe it as, when you were a kid and you played a game and it had those timers that the sand.
Oh no, I was thinking of that. What game was it? It had one of those boards and you did have a timer and you had to put all the shapes in. Otherwise it goes,
yes. Okay, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like this, something's going to blow in a sense. Like, dang it. Your life's going to explode.
yeah.
If you don't do something or something doesn't go the way you had planned it, an expectation, you don't meet the perfectionism.
Yeah. I can't play Mario games because it stresses me out too much.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, no, I'm
Specifically Mario games.
Yeah, I'm this one. Anytime I think about climbing or climbing the rope, I start sweating.
No.
Ugh.
No. A few weeks ago was in Montana with my nephews and niece and went to a jump park. And Aunt Grace jumped the whole time with them, which that was nice of me. But there was a little rope thing that I flipped. It was like a ladder rope that you like would crawl up it. And 2 of the 4 kids were like, Aunt Grace, do this with me. And I was like, no. Like, I'll jump with you the whole time. I'll play dodgeball with you. Oh, I will jump in the foam pit, even though I hate that so much. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I will not go on this ladder with you. It's annoying to me.
I don't know about you, but my elementary school, I went to 2 different ones. But my first one, in gym class, we had to climb a rope, and then we could get a star in our name. And I don't know if that's where my answers. I don't know if that's where my rope thing came from.
The panic of that. I don't think I was ever required to climb a rope.
Gushing.
We did do the pacer test, and I think that should be considered abuse.
I didn't do that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Like, just like that?
Yeah. And that's the first one out. It's okay. I also was like, okay, I know.
Did you have to meet so many?
Yeah, but there was some other aspects for the fitness test, and I matched those out. So I was like, and I'm done with this bullshit. I hate running.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Constant discomforts.
Yeah.
Go to an academy.
I will say that I didn't go through the academy. It's a no for me. I did go through a master's program that I feel like trained me in some ways to deal with anxiety and also to be anxious. Like this sense of if you don't pass this or if you don't do well or if you don't meet this certain way, they had expectations.
Oof, yeah.
And in my mind created this sense of I have to be perfect, I have to meet this standard. And there was just this overwhelming like, if I can't do this, then my whole life is different.
You gotta reroute everything.
Yes. And so I became so anxious. Before my master's, I wouldn't have said I was an anxious person.
Really? I know I've been living with anxiety.
Oh, I think I was.
I can think about having to go to like the next grade level in the summer. I would like sit behind the door. My mom would have to come find me.
Yeah. 5 years old.
Yep.
I'm feeling it.
Especially like when school was going to start. So.
I don't know that I definitely had anxiety prior to every first day. But at that point, I wouldn't have had the language to say I'm anxious. So like prior to my master's, I didn't know I had anxiety, but looking back, I'm like, man, she was an anxious gal, like anxious girly.
Yeah.
Now I can say I'm feeling anxious. And I really do think I learned to acknowledge I was anxious, but my anxiety skyrocketed because there was so much pressure to perform a specific way. And
I think there still is. Oh, and I feel like, I don't know if at school having something about like budgeting and managing time and managing yourself. I mean, those are touched on, but I definitely am more anxious after taking on a lot from clients. Well, and just my own, like, okay, I need to be productive in this session. I think I'm going to go this way. And if we do or don't, then like,
So back to expectations. I, for years, made fun of my dad because he reads on his iPad. And I call him an iPad kid. Oh, there goes the iPad kid. And I get it now. Like, after a day of clients, I want to just, like, in a sense, numb out. Because there is this constant, like, okay, what am I working on with this client? What if we, whatever, or like they go in one direction, I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like, how do I readjust constantly? And then you add in the intense things that we hear and like, all of it.
Ooh, and me too. Like even now, I have clients after this, so I'm stressed out, but I have to like really be mindful to take like some deep breaths because I'll have these clients that are anxious and they will talk like a million miles a second. And I'm just like,
yeah. Yes.
Calm down.
Yes. Everyone needs to take a breath.
Yeah. Well, then I just feel like I'm just bombarded. And then I just have to take it. We'll catch each other after. And then we just have like big eyes, like, whoa. And I will be late. I like starting exactly on the hour. But lately I'll like be like a couple minutes late because I just like take a second in my office and be like, whew.
Yeah. I even think it boils down to the anxiety of like,
oh gosh, yes,
that
like,
kind of thing.
Oh no, I'm not gonna be able to pee.
One time, I was in my internship. I was working with a couple that I had a great alliance with. And I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And I was in between. I had like 5 sessions before this. I needed to go. And I went running to the bathroom, literally sprinting down the hallway. Okay. And I heard the doorbell ring, which is like my clients had to ring a doorbell to get in. And so I'm like panicked in there. And then I get out. They probably stood there maybe a minute, right? Like not long.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. I just had to go to the restroom. Like, sorry, I had to stand out here, whatever. I'm like panicked. And they're like, oh my gosh, no, like you need to go to the bathroom. And then probably the next 3 times when they got there, they're like, we know you're not going to use the restroom. So if you'd like to go right now, we're okay with starting a minute late. Like they were so considerate of me and did not need to be.
Yeah. I think this goes to like, it's an us problem. It's a me problem. I know.
Yeah. The other day had to go to the bathroom. Okay? And it was 30 minutes into a session. And I just looked at my client and was like, I am so sorry. I want to be fully present with you. And I'm really distracted because I need to use the restroom.
Oh, I've never had the balls to do that.
That was the first time. And you know what? It went totally fine. I went to the bathroom. They got their whole amount of time, their session. And then I could be present. Yeah. And like fully focused on what's happening.
I felt like that.
Like ticking your life.
Yeah.
So in all of this,
the chaos, the overwhelm, the turmoil, the panic, the fear, the dread, the overwhelm, all the things. Yeah. Exhausting.
My thing that I would go with like how to manage your life with all of this. I think it looks different for everyone. So you have to find what's helpful for you.
I think you have to like plug and play, give it a try. But these need to be rehearsed and repeated as well.
Yep. This isn't a one-time. No. It didn't work.
One size fits all. It doesn't work.
Yep. I also think register what environment you live in. Figure out what that looks like. Is it working for you? Is it not? Do you need to set boundaries?
Yeah.
And also utilize some emotion regulation and coping skills.
And reach out to your support system.
I think if you choose to not do any of those things, it leads back to our favorite little saying.
If nothing changes,
nothing changes.
We wanted to say thank you for listening today. You can find our Instagram at 2View Therapy and view our merchandise through our Etsy shop at 2View Therapy.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. If you are in a mental health crisis, contact your local crisis center, or you can call and text 988.